Good evening. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as always, thank you to the veterans and their families for the sacrifices that they have made for this country. Okay, this is a voting session, and the first on the agenda is at the first official meeting, according to the Statham City Charter, Section 2.09, the council at the first regular meeting after the newly elected councilmen have taken office following each election shall elect from its membership a vice mayor for a term of 2 years. In the event that no decision is reached at such first regular meeting, the council shall, within 5 ballots to be taken within 10 days following such meeting, elect the vice mayor. Otherwise, the councilman who received the highest number of votes when he was last elected shall become the vice mayor. The vice mayor shall perform the duties of the mayor during his absence or his inability to act, and shall fill out any unexpired term in the office of the mayor, in which case a new vice mayor shall be elected by majority vote of the council. Also, in relation to that, in the charter, section 2.10 defines that as the remainder of that term as 6 months or less. If it is longer than 6 months, it would be a special called election. With that being said, I have cards here that I'm going to give to each council member, and they will be read then by counselor, a neutral party. The cards just basically say "I" with a blank, the council member's name, and vote for and the individual that they vote for. Would you? Yeah. Thank you, Chief.
It is unanimous, Mayor. Councilmember Venables will be vice mayor for a 2-year term.
Yeah.
Thank you for your trust.
Thank you very much. Second on the agenda is well development project change order proposal for groundwater services. The purpose of this is to approve additional proposals from Groundwater Services, Inc. for the well development project. Council approved a fiscal 22 budget for $425,000 for the well development project. Contractor Groundwater Services has been overseeing the project as previously approved by the City Council. While the project moves forward and additional proposals are presented, the City staff is requesting approval of $50,000 to Groundwater Services, Inc. to complete the project plus contingency for a total of $70,000 for unexpected project costs. At this point, I understand we have a couple council members that would like to talk or present. So,
Mayor, I have one. Mayor, from point of order, just from a parliamentary perspective, the proper procedure would be for a motion to be made whether to approve or not approve, and and then seconded, and then there was a period of discussion for council. So that procedurally, we need that motion before there be any presentations.
To approve this, or
Disapprove, or to reject it. But there has to be a motion, then seconded, and then you can discuss that motion.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve $50,000 to Groundwater Services Inc. with a contingency of $70,000, and with a contingency that it be stopped should we find the water unusable.
do I have a second? Second. All those in favor?
No, Mayor, now there's discussion.
All
right.
I do have hopefully it's not a brief presentation. There was a lot of questions last meeting, and hopefully we can get some questions answered.
Just want to make one correction that it is not an additional 70,000. It is 50,000 with a contingency that would make it a total of 70,000. So that just passing that out. So, okay.
So we had questions last week about what I'm calling the Hillman Rainwater Park Road Development Project. And hopefully some of the questions can be answered. Technology wants to work with me. So in the introduction, to move forward with this possible well development project, we need to invest an additional $50,000. Now, $50,000 is not going to be spent if the water is not usable. So at the point that we get our testing back, and it says the water is no good, we stop the project. So not all $50,000 should be used if the water is deemed not drinkable or usable by the city. So we're not necessarily talking about the entire $50,000. Unless the water does come back usable, then obviously we'll move forward with spending the rest of the money. So the total amount that was approved for this project was $425,000. That was budgeted by the previous council in last year's budget, which we're still working on until July 1 of this year. And to date, approximately $20,000 has been spent to start the project, which is basically the drill site where we got the drill. The breakdown of $50,000, that's in the packet that we were given, but this is the breakdown, so you can look at that. So the current reporting, as of now, the upper water, which is above 300 feet, it does show higher iron and manganese. There's 3 fractures that are between 220 and 300 feet, and these are the suspected areas of poor water quality. So the idea is to go beyond 290 feet because the conductivity graph shows that the water quality should be improving. There's lower conductivity, which according to the report, it indicates lower concentration levels of dissolved minerals. So it's suspected that because of the lower concentration of dissolved minerals, it's suspected below that 290 feet mark that the water is better. The goal is, if we find that the water is better below the 290 feet mark, the goal is then to try to cap the fractures above where the full water, or the water with the high areas of iron may be. And that's the reason why we need to go to this next step, is in reporting. This is in the package as well, but basically another pumping and sampling effort needs to be done around 400-foot area to sample the lower fractures. And there needs to be a gamma log done to identify any radioactive zones in the well. And a camera inspection so you can visually see the condition of the fractures. I'm not 100% sure what the term hyperfacing means, but as I understand it, if we can increase the fractures where the good water is, we potentially increase the proposed flow rate from 25 gallons a minute to 50 gallons per minute. It may even go higher if we do 8-inch reaming. We may be able to bring that amount up to upwards over 70 gallons per minute. And again, this is in the report in the packet. So there was concerns about the water quality. Was there trash at the site, grades at the site, and a cost analysis of producing the water versus purchasing the water. So the water quality, That's what we're trying to determine. The requested additional testing should determine if water is usable. There was test pits that were dug attempting to find trash in the area, but as it stands, there's no domestic or commercial trash that was on the ground, surface, or exposed underneath the vegetation once those pits were dug. The water in the spring was sampled for gross alpha. It's below the Georgia APD allowable limit of 15. There's no BSC, there's cyanide that was detected. Barium was detected, but it was below the allowable limit. Lead was detected in spring 2, which spring 2 is a little stream that flows next to the drill site. And it was slightly over the limit that was allowed. And zinc was detected, but it was below the allowable limit from the EPD. Analyses that was done does not indicate any man-made contaminants in the stream area. The 4 pits were excavated on 12/28/2021. Again, no trash, domestic or commercial, were found on the surface or below the vegetation except for concrete, asphalt, bricks, and pipe. There was a little of that found on the trash site. But again, this was not near the drill site. There's roughly 800 to 900 feet, to getting close to 2/10 of a mile between the area of the trash site of concern to the actual drill site. And here's some pictures that show the area of concern for the trash and the graves that were mentioned at a previous meeting. So these are 3 pictures. There's a oak tree. As I understand it, that may have been where possible graves were put years ago, where old homestead was. This area is up behind the basketball court, kind of in an open field. And then on the other side of this, on the back side towards 316, is where a sewer line currently runs. Just so you can get kind of an idea of what we're looking at, these fir trees right here, these are on the back side of the basketball court area. So again, this is where I was told the possible trash site would be. So you can look, and this is kind of the field area there. These are some pictures that the mayor took. Let me back up. Some of the pits that were dug looking for trash. There's nothing really in these pictures that I can see except for some roots, vegetation, water. And here's some more pictures of the dig sites. You can see there it looks like some old pipe, concrete, and a lot of red clay. And these are the last 3 pictures of a pit that was dug. And I'm not sure who that is standing down there, but you can use that as a point of reference to see how deep the site is. So to give you an idea of what we're talking about, the distance, this is the well drill area. This point right here, red, is roughly where the drill site is. Up here is the basketball court, and this is the area where the pictures that I just showed were taken. So through the woods as the crow flies up this way, it should be about 800 to 900 feet. This is pictures of the actual drill site. So this is the well itself, top of the well, the sand around it. Here's the stream that we were talking about. It's flowing next to it. And this is just the area around it. At least on the surface area, there's no trash that I saw when I walked it, and there was no trash in the area of the stream when I walked it. Again, more pictures of the site, of the drill site, and these are immediately around the well where it was drilled, and this is the sand. So. What you're about to see next is a short video clip I took my phone, kind of give you a 360 of the area so you can see what we're looking at. And all the stuff that I quoted here are in the reports, which are available here at City Hall. So I'm turning towards the 316 area now, all the way around towards the little stream that flows. So you can kind of see the area around the proposed well. And this is looking back at the road that heads back towards the paved road that leads to the ball courts. The one thing that I did see in the area was a roll of plastic. Most of it's still in the roll, but I wanted to go look at it and pick it up and make sure there was no trash or anything of note underneath that. In further inspection of it, it was leaves, mud, a little bit of water. And then, not much longer on the video, but if we were facing 316, we went to immediately to the left of the drill site to where the stream is, just to make sure that we couldn't see anything in the ravine, the stream area. And we didn't see anything out in that area. So that's pretty well it for the video. It just walks back towards the drill site from there. But a lot of vegetation in the area and leaves. So it brings us to producing versus purchasing. So we don't have a good number on what it would take to actually produce our own water, because it's gonna depend upon the turbidity and other things. Assuming this well, if it passes, assuming that the water is good, we really got to figure out what it would take in order to produce good, clean water. But you're going to have that with any water source. Currently, the city has purchased approximately $280,000 on average of water per year from January 1 of 2018 to January 11th of 2022. That totals just over $1.2 million. So producing our own water, it may initially cost close to the same as what we're purchasing it. We're getting a very good rate from Liner at the moment. The Barrow County's rate is higher, should we have to use them, and we are purchasing some water from Barrow County still. But even if we are producing our own water and it costs the same amount as purchasing it from Liner, we still have better control over it because we're not as susceptible to price increases. We're more self-sufficient, and we're not dependent on an outside entity for our number one money maker. It's our biggest revenue generator out of all available revenue we have for the city. So, in short, as it stands now, we have no control over whether or not these outside entities will increase our cost for what the water that we're purchasing. We have no idea if they will even agree to allow us to continue purchasing water, because everybody knows Barrow County is growing, and with that growth, we're also facing, they're facing the same thing that we are, and they're going to have to produce water and provide for their own citizens first. And droughts, they occur. We remember what happened in Lake Lanier. So I just feel personally that we need to be a little more self-sufficient on our water. If this well goes through and it produces water, that along with the spring, I'm told we'll have 2/3 of what we need to be self-sufficient. As it stands, I feel like the city is not financially secure when we're depending on other people, other entities to provide us with our biggest revenue generator. I don't think doing nothing is not an answer. We're elected to provide solutions, and this can be a short-term and a long-term fix. So in closing, it's in our early stage. Additional testing, which is going to be governed by the EPD, is providing the information we need to determine if it's a viable water source. Testing will be required for any well. It'll be required for any water source. So we're going to encounter that regardless. As I understand, this is the only site that was recommended that's on the city-owned property. And I believe the mayor probably can expand on this a little more, but I believe that's the reason why this site was chosen initially, because other sites would require us to work with property owners to acquire rights or acquire property in order to be able to use that site for water. So this site will not go into service if it's found to be unusable or it's found to have any man-made contaminants, because we all drink and use this water. And nobody wants to put, bad water into service. So if we drill down further and we find out it's bad, it's not going to be coming out of your spigots. We're not going to do that. As it stands, this site or any future sites, if you work in conjunction with the 54-acre detention pond over there at the water treatment facility, this is both, in my opinion, a short-term and long-term fix, because it's not exclusive. It's not an either-or plan. This can work with the pond if we get the money down the road to do the dredging and clean up all that pond. It's not necessarily just going to go away if we put this well in and then we use the pond later on down the road. They can work together. Eventually, if that happens, we can have possibly enough water to sell to other entities outside of Statham. Staff and contractors are recommending moving forward with the next phase of this project. As of today, we can't find any trash or graves on the site. And again, it's my understanding that where the drill site is far enough away from the supposed areas where trash were. And doing nothing, in my opinion, is not a solution. If we keep waiting, we're going to keep waiting. And I think that we need to move forward with this. I hope it answers some questions. I really do. I appreciate y'all's time.
Any other council members want to add anything?
I have an opinion. I feel like that we, as new council members, were put on the spot last meeting and have had to do a lot of homework trying to make an educated decision on what's best for our community. My feelings are that, and it's just my opinion, that we do have other places, and I feel like that we maybe should have checked those as well, and I do understand from the mayor that they belong to other folks. So when we're looking for water exploration, it does take time, and there's a lot of money that it takes to do that. We don't have a whole lot of money, so I still have reservations, and I hope that people understand that I have reservations about that, because I don't really have the knowledge, or I've spoke with people that do have a lot of knowledge in water exploration. Some have told me that wells aren't the way to go. Others are, well, it could be. So I know that people are concerned about the leaching that could occur from this. However, it has to be tested, and if it's not good water, I don't know if it's the right thing to invest more money into something that we already have bad test already. So I don't, I have that opinion, and I feel that I should voice that to everybody, that I'm not I don't feel comfortable at this time making a decision, on it. So that's just the way I feel.
Okay. Some of the questions that were sent to me, one of them was there a spec sheet put together for vendor? I would say that that's probably asking, did we do a request for bid and request for price? And the answer to that is yes, we were assisted by our engineering group, EMI. They did put that out. We did the request. We got two, period. One was Emery Garrett, which was for $49,800, and the other one was for groundwater services. So we got two, and it was decided at that point. The big difference, Emery Garrett is brick and mortar in Atlanta, Georgia, huge conglomerate, and the groundwater services is 2 employees, and they both can provide the same thing and have for other municipalities. So that was how we came to make the recommendation for Groundwater Services, Inc. Another question that I was asked was how much research. Part of that $20,000 that the city paid for Groundwater Services, Inc., he did 18 sites. 5 of those were eliminated because of either junkyards or cemeteries that were close by. That allowed 13 sites to be explored. Only one of those was the Hillman, which the city owns. There were 4 on the top list that had the lowest, as was stated in this video, the lowest resistance readings. The other 3 were property owners, and as were the other 9. So we had 13 sites, and this was the most likely, and that is why he did that. Now, the $20,000 investment on the city's part did all of that, plus drill a well, 620 feet approximately, and it's, as the report showed, down about 420 feet. There's a viable source, but to make sure, unless someone has a fortune teller's ball, we don't have any guarantee unless we make a little bit of investment and go a little bit further. I spoke with Dan, who's the owner of Groundwater Services, the 30th of December, when he brought the last report in with these 4 dug pits and what their readings were, and brought the report to Jordan and I. And we affirmed that if, in the event that it is not viable, he's not going to continue down the list. The first 3 are almost hand in hand, which, if you add those totals up, it comes out to $14,300. And at that point, if the turbidity is 4 or higher, 4 parts per milliliter, I believe it is, he's going to make the recommendation that we don't even go any further. The state says 5, but he uses 4 for his guidelines, and that is that's one of the questions that were posed to me. So I think that's about all I have to add to it. Did any other council members have any other questions, concerns, or input?
Well, I'm just, thank Gary for putting that together, I appreciate that. Like Gary said, if we do nothing, we're just gonna stay as is. We gotta move forward some way. I think this is a high reward, low risk. What is it, 17,000? We're risking 14. And I personally think that the reward can outweigh the risk on this. And if we just keep sitting back, waiting for the perfect situation, the perfect site, we're gonna look around 4 to 6 years and still be right where we are. So, I think the risk is worth it, in my opinion.
And another question I forgot was, did we drill anywhere else? No, this was the most viable, and in order to drill somewhere else, we would have to draft up an agreement with a property owner and negotiate to go on their property to try. And we had 4, so it would be 3 of the most viable. If this one turns out to not be a good source. So I have no intentions, as I'm sure every council member has no intentions of continuing if the water is not going to be palatable or safe to drink. But as was stated, we have to do something. Doing nothing is probably the epitome of failure. So,
I guess we just wouldn't look at other ones. I would feel better if we did try a couple of other locations, and I understand from hearing from you that there are privately owned locations. Did we even ask those folks if we could?
we have talked to some of them, and they are open to negotiation, but that negotiation could take several months, because you would probably have our city attorney involved, their attorney involved, because it wouldn't behoove the city to buy, say, 2 acres, make sure they have enough area to work with, because you'd have to have like a holding tank, like a pump house. Maybe you could expound on
Not just the radius that'll be required to be around the well with other contaminants not being around.
Okay, so then it would have to be written contingent on favorable results, and at which point then we would purchase it. If it would be water that would be satisfactory to water their lawn or whatever, there would be an investment on the city's part that maybe it wouldn't be good for us, but they wind up having a well that they could utilize for watering or doing whatever they wanted to do. But if it was viable, but I think, we have an opportunity to go that one step further here before we just say, let's move on. My fear is we have 20,000 invested, we go somewhere else, we're gonna go through this exact same process, and if we, as a council, say no, and we're into it for 20 or 22,000, and we go somewhere else, we got a bunch of holes to the tune of 20,000, and the next thing we've wasted $100,000, and we still aren't producing any more water. So that's just my fear. I'm willing to go to that next step, but I think let's exhaust what we have now, and then go to the next step. I know there's people concerned about bringing the lake back online. We already know, based on what we would apply for in grants, it's a $2.3 million project. And if we get those grants, we're looking at 2 to 3 years down the road before we could bring that lake back online for favorable water source. And it's also understood that 4 to 5 years, you'd have to dredge that section again. To do it the right way, it's a $8, $9 million, $10 million project, and that would take upwards of 5 years before we'd be able to. So in the meantime, we can't sit there and wait till, we get our allowance and do nothing. We have to, I think, explore what we have at hand and then use it to supplement our spring. Just based on 30 gallons per minute, what did I figure, 80,000 a day, 70,000 a day?
60-something, 70,000.
70,000, okay? In the spring, we get between 1 and 120,000 a day, so it would be a significant, chunk. Now, if it would produce 70 gallons per minute, obviously, it would be, quite a source, but we won't know unless we at least venture into, and look at it from what's the next step.
Yeah, my biggest fear is the drought, because I think, Winder, I think, has made a comment that they're gonna look at it themselves if we have a drought, so.
As did the county. So, once they get the, quarry online, which is a joint venture between Winder and Auburn, but that's still maybe 2 years out, from what I hear, talking to Mayor Maynard. So once it would come online, it would be, theirs would be an additional 3 to 3.5 million gallons per day. Their need is about 5 to 5.5 million per day now. No, that's their capability, I take it back. Their usage is about 3.5 million a day, and they are able to draw about between 5 and 5.5 million from the sources they have now, and that quarry would give them an additional 3 million. But there again, do we wait and say, well, we know we can continue to do business with Winder and do nothing on our part? I don't think that's a smart way to do it. So, at this point, if there's no other questions or concerns or in addition, then I ask for the vote. So we have a motion, we have a second. So all those in favor of going to the next step? All those opposed? Okay. So it's a 3-2 vote. Now, normally we do executive session towards the end, but I understand we have a need for executive session.
That's correct. Discuss pending litigation.
So can I have a motion to go into executive session? Okay. Do I have a second? Okay. All those in favor? Okay. We'll be back.
Okay. Need a motion to come out first.
Motion to exit executive session, Mayor.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Okay.
Mayor and City Council for the City of Statham adjourned into executive session to discuss matters exempt from the Open Meetings Act, specifically to discuss pending litigation with the city attorney, which is protected under the attorney-client privilege. No votes were taken during the executive session. A copy of the affidavit and resolution will be included with the minutes.
Thank you, Council. Okay, last things on the agenda, the minute approval for January 16, 2022 work session minutes, and January 16, 2022 special call meeting minutes. Are there any corrections, concerns with those minutes? Okay, if no questions, then do I have a motion to approve the minutes for the January 16 work session minutes as well as the special call meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Mayor, that's January 6th, correct?
Yeah, they were both on January 6th. So we have a motion from council. Kraus, have to get used to the new name. And second?
I'll second.
Okay, and we have Lee, and then all those in favor? All righty, well, thank you all for coming.
You guys
Oh, motion.
Adjourn.
Second.